And who feels better for it? Who wants to live a life with a distorted energy, a distorted mind, distorted cellular energy? Who wants that? Who wants to be clear? Clear, clear, clear. From your head to your toe, from your cells outward. Removing distortions. Remove the things that distort your free flow of being. Your free flow of vitality. Your clear, aware, perceiving, feeling, knowing, intuiting, and loving mind. All of that is there, and it shines forth when you take away the distortion. We started with hemp oil, and we're able to, with that, stabilize what the distortion is doing to our mind. We're able to open up the nervous system to offload the distorting elements. But now we can connect all of that down to the drainage out of the system. So it's not just a band-aid, a helper, a stabilizer. It is true removal and true reset. This detox system is something I've been working on really for my whole life. This is where I grew up. You'd think you just pulled these pictures out and said, oh, here's a picture of toxicity. Like all those internet detox systems. You don't want that. You don't want to look like this. Well, I did grow up here. This is Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Birthplace of Jesus. And me. We went to high school together. All right, maybe that's delusional. We're a little ways away from each other, but Bethlehem Steel, that is what was happening there. And every morning you'd see the cloud rising out of the blast furnaces. You'd feel the residue along the car. Anything you touched. And I grew up with that. I grew up with those fundamental distortions. I grew up with the dentist who was so giving. He was very giving. He gave and he gave until I had 17 amalgams and only one cavity. But that's how giving he was. And I remember a fundamental change in my mind, or the quality of my mind, after those started going in. I remember having this temper that would just pop. And, you know, I guess through my incarnations, I wasn't too mad at people, but shit, that record player really pissed me off and it skipped. And I'd be like, ah, boom, and I put my hand through the wall, and there was these holes all over my wall. My friend would come over, you know, and he'd look in my fridge, he'd get a cup of Dannon yogurt, and he'd eat that, and then he'd take the lid, and he'd like put a little spackle yogurt on there and pop it over the hole. Until I had all these Dannon yogurt lids all over my wall, and I'm like, you know, I think something's wrong here with my temper. And, you know, if you have any familiarity with Chinese medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, they talk about liver and rage in the liver. And what does that mercury do? It goes up to the brain, it works on the glutamate receptors. Remember, those stick you into fight or flight real easily. it damages the kidneys and the adrenals, and it goes in and it inflames your liver. And you stop, you block, you stop processing fluidly the toxic elements of your life. And instead of just taking them and dumping them, like, oh yeah, the record's skipping, detox that, it backfires, it's not processed, and it goes in your brain, and it seems like a big freaking deal, when it's not. Keeping that liver path open, keeping toxic elements metabolizing, moving out. And this is a directionality thing. When you're explaining this to people, it's about right directionality. Process, pull into the liver, dump. Pull, drain, pull, drain, pull, drain. And when that's blocked, you can't process the toxic elements of your life. And you know I'm speaking chemically and metaphorically here, because I've been telling you the overlap between the way the mind is working and its ability to handle things is mirrored in the liver. The mirror is livering the mind is livering the mirror, mirroring the liver. And that openness of mind extends the openness of liver. We keep talking about sympathetic and parasympathetic, being on and then being relaxed and taking in and draining out, purifying. And there's another element of this that's towards your central generation of energy. And I was alluding to it yesterday. But your mitochondria are what makes all energy in your cells. And they give that energy for you to execute processes in your cells. And when you're low on energy, you have to prioritize. What can I do? What do I have the energy to do? And the cell has sensors and communication devices all through it that lead out into the rest of the body, and they decide collectively what can be done. And they're deciding in the context of what your autonomic tone is. So if your autonomic tone, remember, if your autonomic tone is fight or flight, the prioritization is different. You choose different paths, just like in life we do this all the time. When our autonomic tone is off, we choose to react to somebody or something, some event in a certain way. And do we want to choose to react in a processing, accepting, open way? Or do we want to be locked up and respond in a toxic way? The people in integrative and functional medicine who have experience when they're dealing with patients or public that come in and they're totally irrational, we call that a toxic response. What does a toxic response get you? It gets you nothing. It doesn't get what you want. The more your mind stream is wrong, the more you become toxic. The more you're toxic, the more your mind stream becomes wrong. This is an amazing opportunity for you to change so many lives. And if you get to know me, I don't say that lightly. I don't walk around saying we're going to change the world until I'm sure that we can. That means I'm feeling pretty sure right now. So I want to get you to understand some key elements of how this all works. I think you have the idea of the tone of where we want to bring people, of this use together of the hemp oil and the detox to set a tone to the nervous system and drain things out and come up to a higher level. But now I want you to be able to speak a little bit about how it works in the body. And the big movement forward for detoxification is that we now can speak about how it works. Not, take some dandelion tea, it detoxes you. Why? I don't know, but I pee a lot. Must be detoxing me. Incidentally, in French, dandelion is pissenlit. Lit is bed. Peace is peace. Piss the bed. That is what it means. Right, but now we can talk. It used to be all this, take these herbs, do this thing, and then these metaphors about it, and the metaphors are good, but we didn't know the mechanism. We didn't know what happened in the cells. We could not put our tools together into this super system that really does things accurately. And now the primary research is out there about these pathways. There is so much research being done at fantastic universities on how every one of these plants works, every one of these compounds works. And we can put these together in a symphony that accomplishes so much, but we tie it all together so accurately that we don't have the negative experiences that everybody fears of detox. Who's heard about, oh my God, detox reactions? Everybody knows. Aside from having a big emotional release and having to deal with these issues about your daddy that you've had for 40 years, how many people have had a really bad physical reaction? How many people have had the like daddy thing, mommy thing? Or, every other person thing. So, the emotional side, you're just going to have to come face to face with this, but I've tied up the physical side. So I want you to be able to speak to some of these elements. The right directionality is the key thing. We're getting it down, out, into the GI tract, binding it there, and taking it all the way out to the toilet. Because in that path, from cells to toilet, there was several backfire points, or points where the toxins could go right back into the body. Those were the causes of detox reactions. When you get it to the liver, but it can't go to the GI, and so it goes back to the blood. When you get it to the GI, but it reabsorbs again and goes back into the blood, to the brain, to the skin, to the organs. Those were the failures of detox. So the key thing is that we open up the path, optimize the path, and ensure everything goes out. Now, when I lecture on detox, I like to lecture about directionality, and we'll get to that in a second. And it's just like a series of doors. And you can view it just like this room. This is the hepatocyte, the liver cell. And there's doors into it, and there's doors out of it. Imagine that each one of these doors only goes one direction. And we need to optimize the directionality. We'll talk more about that. But I also want you to understand the liver perspective and the cellular perspective. I call them microcosm and macrocosm. So there's microcosmic detoxification and macrocosmic. The microcosm is the cell. And in the microcosm, we have the machinery to take the invading toxin and push it back out. Pushing away. And when cells are pushing away, pushing away, pushing away, those chemicals in us are not toxins, they're just chemicals. They're toxins when they act on you. When they grab something and change it, block it. And as long as we're pushing away from the cells are functioning clearly despite the presence of the toxins in the system and in the environment. All this chemistry that does this and accomplishes the pushing away, it's collectively referred to as a chemoprotection system. It's a pretty way of saying detoxification. So when the chemoprotection is working, it's pushing away from the cell, and the cell is happy. And in fact, in cell culture studies, they see that when this is in place, you can put all these toxins in the cell culture and that cells are fine. But if they go in and block little elements of the chemoprotection system in the cell, then the toxins get in and hurt the cell. So when we boost the microcosmic level, we're able to resist the toxins that are a ubiquitous part of our environment. So the cell pushes away, and it pushes away, and it pushes away into the circulating fluids, blood and lymph. And there it's moving through the body, and we must filter the circulating fluids. We filter with liver, with kidney, with GI, and with skin. Of those, the liver is the most important. It handles the biggest weight of all this. Think of it like this. Every cell has this detoxification machinery, but the liver has 30, 40, 50 copies of that machinery. And the liver is controlling the gates out. So microcosmic is kicking out of the cells into circulation. Macrocosmic is filtering circulation. And I told you yesterday that in that filtering and dumping, it is with the bile flow that the toxins go. There's a term, cholestasis. It means blockage of bile. Stasis means stopped. So when you have cholestasis, you have toxostasis. They must both move. And there is a reflexive autonomic control of the gallbladder that relies on having parasympathetic tone, being able to chill. When we're locked up, the liver's locked up, and we hold the toxins in. If you remember the diagram of neuroinflammation, the toxins then wind up our neurological block, which further blocks detoxification, which further brings on more toxins. This is the downward spiral. Freeing us from that involves working at the brain level and working at the liver level. So, the chemoprotective system in the cell, how does it push away? How does it push out of the cell? It's a three-part system. Phases of detoxification. And it's taking a toxin, prepping it, and then pushing it. And the prepping goes forth in two phases. Phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is activating the toxin. I call it nicking it. Imagine this package here that I got to get out. And to get it out, I've got to put a tag on it so that my shippers at the door recognize it and know what to do with it. So to get the tag on, first I got to cut into the box a little bit, and then I can label it. The labeling it is called phase 2. It's conjugation. You're going to take that activated toxin with a little nick in it, and you're going to tie onto it a biomolecule that you make. Now, my favorite of all those biomolecules is glutathione. Who loves glutathione? At my first Prime My Body event, I was walking down the hall and this guy stops me, people stop. Let me take a picture. This guy didn't ask me for anything. He just pulled out a shirt that he'd made for me. that had a picture of me going like this, talking about glutathione on a webinar, and it said, "I love glutathione." A glutathionophile. He knew. So that was a wonderful thing he did for me. So, in this conjugation, there's glutathione, sulfate, and glucuronic acid. These are three things that you make, and you link them onto the toxin. Depending on which toxin it is, you use a different one of those. So then you got this labeled package, and then phase 3, the last part, is transport it, move it out. So nick it, label it, ship it. All right, that's pretty easy. And as long as we're doing that, we're moving it out of the cell. But now the shipping part has multiple steps. We can ship from the cell into the blood, but then we got to ship through the liver, into the bile tract, into the GI, and out to the toilet. And so we have to preserve all those different levels of doors of phase 3. So nick it, label it, ship it out to the halls, the circulating fluid, the blood, and there it'll be grabbed by liver, kidney, GI, and dumped to the next step. But remember, the liver is taking most of this. All right, so we're going to look at a little diagram just for directionality, and this might be a little bit like, whoa, it's a lot of stuff there. But just think of it going down. It's starting at the top, and at the top you're in a cell, and you have that phase 1. The phase 2 is right below it, the 3 different processes there. And then you go out of the cell into the blood. From the blood, you can be transported through the liver or through the kidneys, liver dominantly, and you're moved from the liver into the bile tree, through the gallbladder, to the small intestine. All right, so that's when everything is working. It's going down, then out to the sewage treatment plant. Down and out. Now, certain things can block us. So now you got that red explosion there at the bottom, out of the liver. And where do the toxins go then? Back into the blood. So this is the problem when you take detox supplements, but you don't have all these doors lined up. Someone will say, oh, I'm going to take lipoic acid. I heard that's good for detox. Well, that's winding up certain parts of this. And when you wind them up, often you take relatively stabilized stored toxins and activate them and mobilize them, but you fail to complete the deal. You fail to take that last step out of the liver. And the liver can handle a lot of crap. It can handle a lot of toxins, but it's got a limit. So when these start building up in the liver has to save itself, and it has a back pressure valve. And it pops those toxins back into the blood. Where are they going to go from there? They're going to go to the brain, cause more neuroinflammation, anxiety, brain fog. That's going to disrupt the autonomics. They're going to go to the kidneys and give you lower back pain. They're going to go to the skin. And they're going to try to come out through the skin. You'll first have itching, and then you'll have rashes. It's one of the very common things in detox protocols is that you see these rashes. That's the failure to move out of the liver into the small intestine. Instead, this stuff all goes out. One of the biggest ways to know that that liver to gallbladder transition is blocked, the outdoor of the liver, is you got itchy. You're feeling itchy and you take some bitters, all of a sudden it'll go away as you open up that path. The next problem we have, the next short circuit in our chain, our conveyor belt out of the system, is that it gets down to the GI. Say the bile's flowing. It goes down there, and then it gets reabsorbed. Methylmercury for fish is a 95% reuptake, just because of its chemical nature. Cadmium has reuptake. Mold toxins have reuptake. A number of pesticides and herbicides do. And when you have an inflamed GI tract that gives you leaky gut, you're going to have enhanced reuptake of these toxins, as well as high uptake of toxic elements from your GI tract. I talked about that element endotoxin. It's little parts of bacteria from your GI tract. When you have leaky gut, you're getting this into the system and telling the system to inflame like mad. So, for a detox system, it's crucial to get the phases all working, get the directionality and the bile flow working, and then catch the package when it hits the GI tract. And never before have we been able to create such a coherent, discrete, and complete system that dumps everything so quick and you can go catch it and it's so clean. Only because of this nanolipid delivery system can we get this kind of discrete activity. By discrete, I mean we take our liver clear. In a half hour, all that stuff's in circulation. Your liver's activated. It's dumping toxins rapidly. And you come and you chase it with the mega binder. And you tie that all up in a nice, neat little package. And you'll feel it. Like if you let that go, you don't do it in 30 minutes, maybe wait 45, you'll start feeling, you're like, whoa, there's some stuff happening. Binder, and then oh, and then it's almost that fast. Who's felt that?
I have.
It's really palpable, and then it just cleans it all back up, and you're like, wow, how about that? And you just did a little detox retreat in 1 hour. Teaspoon. Half hour later, binder. Half hour later, you're off to the races. You want to eat, eat. You want to fast, fast. You're done. You just went to a spa and you had this complete treatment. And you can do that once a day. You can do it twice a day. You can do it 3 times. If you're a real overachiever, you do a double dose 3 times a day. Or you can just do it once or twice on a weekend. It's like a little module you just plug into your day. And the more often you plug it in, the deeper the cleanse. That is a really useful and powerful system. And all the while you're doing it in this field of hemp. That's pretty good. That's not great. In the field. It's holding you up in its divine little leaf hands. Saying it's okay, baby. You can lose all that toxin. You can be the divine being you wanted to be. So if I disappear anytime soon, it's because I think that I'm done. All right, back to the nefarious tendencies of endotoxin. Where does this all break down? Go back to the broken system. So here we got this red GI tract, it's leaky gut, and it's putting gasoline onto the fire of inflammation in your body. It's blocking the liver, it's blocking the kidney, it's blocking the brain. Remember, it shifts you into sympathetic lock through the neuroinflammatory fire it creates while it's shutting down the bile directionality, and it's shutting down the same transporters in the kidneys. So we got to fix that. That was how we talked about it. That was endotoxin creating that neuroinflammation. And remember, we said that you could think of these toxins as inflammogens, inflammation generators. And the CBD is going to stabilize that, but we have to drain them from the system. And that's what the detox is doing. And this is not new, knowing that endotoxin comes from the GI and blocks liver. This is from 1979, when they were looking at alcoholic and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and cirrhosis. They said, well, this stuff's coming from the GI tract and blowing up the liver, and it's impairing detox. They didn't know any of the pathways involved at the time. They didn't know what we know now. But we know it so clearly, we can design around it. All right, so endotoxin blocks the liver. Inflammogens are going throughout the body. Now, I just want to show you quick the doors of the liver. You've got the blood side, the red side, and the bile side, the green side. You're pulling from the blood and dumping into the bile. Pulling and dumping, pulling and dumping, pulling and dumping. When everything's working. And on the blood side, there's 4 main doors in, and there's 2 minor doors out. The doors out are the pressure relief valve. And remember, we prioritize. We don't have all doors open at all times. We do according to what is possible for the situation we're in. And here, we're dominantly in, and then we got 4 big doors going down the green path. And all that stuff in between is chemistry for moderating toxins, processing them, metabolizing them so we can get out. And you'll see those little green balls, those are bile salts. And they're going into the green, the bile tree, and the toxins are going in. There's that thing called MRP2 that moves toxins and bile. And right below it, BSEP, bile salt export pump. That's moving bile. And that is the proper directionality. So, what happens when we're all red like that? Everybody knows red is bad, red is inflamed. What happens is we get a backward directionality. Now on the blood side, we have 4 main doors out, a 5th minor door out, and only 2 in. And over on the green side, we actually took 2 of those doors out, and we brought them into the house and wrapped them in a little liposome. This is actually how the cell does things. It makes a vesicle, bilayer membrane around them. It makes a little liposome around them. Remember when I talk about the way we do things with phosphatidylcholine, this is the way the body does stuff. We're choosing an inherently natural way to deliver these things. So your body takes those doors, which are expensive to make, and it pulls them into the cell and it wraps them in a little bubble, waiting for things to calm down in the cell. But when things have wound up in the cell, bile salts, toxins, free radicals are building up in the liver. The liver is going to die if it does not dump all that stuff back into the blood to dilute it into your mobile phase, your circulating fluids. That is the pressure relief valve. That is where detox goes wrong. That is where you're trying to take detox things and you're having all these symptoms and you can't take a dose that's worth a damn. Oh, I'm working up. I do a drop a day. Yeah, see you in 30 years, buddy. But if we open up the door, we get you into heroic doses early. You guys don't understand how much detox you've been doing. People come to me and they're like, well, I just went to level 4. I felt good. If I gave you half of those things, but not tied together like it is before, you'd have freaked out. You would have had a really bad time. And we used to, get you on the microdoses. Microdoses are good for one thing, not for detox.
I love you.
Microdose detox? No. So you're getting into really solid doses really quickly because we have proper directionality. When it's proper, it don't hurt. It takes some energy. You're going to reprioritize your energy. You're going to need to sleep a little more. But you're not going to be like, oh, fucked out all day. It's cool. I know what's going on. I'm just detoxing. It's a Herxheimer reaction. You know what a Herxheimer reaction is? That's a Herxheimer reaction.
Okay.
So what kind of stuff blocks that? I've said it like again and again and again. Yeah, endotoxin doesn't. But stress doesn't. Locking ourselves up does that. And this is so crucially important to women and women's health. The liver is a huge element of balance for the hormone system. What in the hormone system creates this block? Estrogen. Estrogen dominance creates that block. And remember, that block is also associated with glutamate excess. Glutamate excess is what? It's anxiety, it's irritability. Estrogen dominance does that because it's blocking the liver and it's aggravating the neurochemical system. And what balances that? Progesterone. In the brain, progesterone is increasing GABA tone, which is balancing glutamate tone. It's balancing you into that parasympathetic mode. And in the liver, progesterone is opening up that path and getting that fluidity. And our help helps shift that out. So when we shift that over and open up directionality, we encourage balance. And remember, we said that hemp is also working on our hormone axis. It's creating balance. And that's allowing toxins to drain. And remember, the toxins are creating imbalance. And the toxins are lowering the immune system, which is allowing chronic infection. Viruses, yeasts, bacteria living at low levels, aggravating, inflaming the system. There's data all over the place on how the toxins rob you of your glutathione levels. The low glutathione levels shift the immune system. You become more allergic and less vigilant against invaders. Lowering the toxic burden shifts that immune dominance. Puts you back to where you kick out the trash. So the trash is not only the toxins, the trash is the viruses and the yeasts, the bacteria that are living in there, and they're helping keep your system dysfunctional. That's why they kick up when you're under stress, because when you're under stress, you lock up the liver, you become more toxic, you diminish the glutathione system, you diminish the immune system, and the viruses come out. That's why cold sores come out under stress. Keeping a clean system gives you vastly more resilience against those little bastards. That's what they are. Little bastards. Bother ye no more. The little bastards will go. All right, so how's this all work? How are we going to do this? a real simple term, push, catch. Push the bile flow out with all the toxins you just prepared, and then take your binder and catch them. That's pretty easy, eh? So push, part of that is bile flow, and we're going back to this is old medicine. Bitters. Turn of the century, bitters were the panacea. They made everything feel better because they moved your liver. And that's like, that's better. So they used it for everything. Europeans, traditional Europeans are using bitters all over the place. You go drink aperitifs in Europe, most of them are bitter aperitifs, getting that flow going before you eat. So bitters, silymarin is the compound in milk thistle, and phosphatidylcholine, what we use to make all of our liposomes, is also part of bile flow. We'll talk about the next stages after this, but let's look at everything that's in there. So in the liver clear, we have this set of compounds in there. Now let's isolate them into functionality. The top, myrrh, gentian, dandelion, solidago. Any of the herbalists out here are going to be like, well, those are nice traditional herbs. Bitter herbs. And all of these herbals, in fact, we're developing a whole line of herbals in this nano delivery system because they work at a vastly higher level when you get them in like this. So the bitters and the PC are moving the bile. The next thing, quercetin, luteolin, and DIM are part of inflammation control. Because here's a key thing. Everybody's heard, inflammation is causing all these problems. It is. Inflammation by itself isn't bad, but when inflammation just goes on all the time, it is bad. And inflammation is the opposite of detox. Inflammation comes to kill things with pro-oxidants, with free radicals. Detox uses antioxidants to protect the cell and to dump toxins. So when you're inflammatory, you're blocking detox. This is another part of it. When everything's locked up, you start getting inflammatory. You've got a background of chronic infections going. You're holding all your toxins. You're insympathetic. The whole thing, you're getting insulin resistance. You're starting to get weight you're holding on. Your liver, you might be getting a non-alcohol, fatty liver. This all ties together. And pushing the inflammation down while we ramp up detox is a big part of it. And the last part in there is NRF2 upregulation. So let's just go back to bile flow. And we said that's bitters and phosphatidylcholine. Remember, phosphatidylcholine is also part of the delivery. Remember that how fast we get delivery. Remember I talked about immediacy. This was the graph where on the bottom is the hemp extract, the hemp oil in just a capsule with no nano delivery, and the blue is with the nano delivery. You see in 25 minutes you're almost at peak dose. That's why this system works. You take your liver clear in this nano delivery, in 25 minutes the liver's activated and dumping things. Over on the upper right, it's those two transporters, MRP2 and the bile transporter, that are activated by bitters. The phosphatidylcholine is working on another transporter. Phosphatidylcholine is an essential part of bile. It fluidizes the bile. It keeps it liquid. And it protects the lining of the bile ducts from the detergent effect of the bile. Bile is a detergent. That's why you have pressure relief valves in the liver beyond the toxin buildup. Because when bile salts build up in the liver, they digest the liver, so you have to dump them out. PC, phosphatidylcholine, is part of harnessing them. It makes mixed micelles. They're like little liposomes with the bile salts to take them down into the GI tract. And it's taking PC from the membranes of your liver all the time. And when you can't keep up with making more PC for your liver membranes, you lock up the bile tree. So lack of PC is another way that you create cholestasis. So the phosphatidylcholine, bringing it in the mechanism we do, is always feeding this process. And you've seen me talk before about membranes and membranous organelles. Over on the right is all the membranous organelles, the mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, all speaking together through their phosphatidylcholine makeup. They talk to one another, they read the milieu of the cell, and they talk to the nucleus, and they say, here's how we can prioritize. So the PC is a big key to keeping the flow out and keeping the rebuilding of the cells so that they have the most pure and pristine architecture so that they can do what they do so amazingly, miraculously. How do these little parts talk to one another? And how do the cells all talk to one another? All that communication apparatus is in the membranes, and the membranes are built of phospholipids. So the phosphatidylcholine is a crucial part, especially when we get to a part where we talk about autophagy and mitophagy, where we're taking apart diseased organelles and diseased cells and rebuilding them. The phosphatidylcholine is key for being able to do this. Bioflow. There's studies now done that show people with blocked bioflow get SIBO. Remember I said SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Stuff growing in the upper intestine where it's not supposed to grow. When people aren't flushing it away with the detergent in the bile, you have stuff grow up there. And when stuff grows up there, then you inflame the gut, then you get endotoxin in, and then you inflame everything and you block detoxification. So bioflow is key to clearing that essential area of the upper GI so that you don't have that instigation of trouble from the GI. Bile does that. So on the left we have our block system, on the right we open it up, we move the bile, we start pushing all the trouble downstream, pushing the inflammation down the GI tract. All right, second part, I talked about inflammation control. That is the quercetin, luteolin, and DIM. Quercetin is used often as a mast cell stabilizer. That means a histamine blocker. When people are toxic, their immune system is shifted to an allergic dominance, and when they have reactions to the things that you're giving them, they might react to those herbals. They create inflammation, they block detox. Well, the quercetin and the luteolin and the DIM go in and they calm the immune system. They create immunotolerance and they prevent that inflammation. DIM, diindolylmethane, is also an NRF2 unlocker. It unlocks mechanisms of chemoprotection that have been blocked by things like mold toxins. So we're winding up bioflow. We're stabilizing reactive elements, reactions against things, and inflammation. We're unlocking the chemoprotective blocks. And then the last part is NRF2 upregulation. NRF2 is a protein that's in the cytoplasm that moves into the nucleus to turn up all the chemoprotection genes. But guess what? When you're really toxic and really inflamed, it's hard to upregulate that. So once we get the bile flowing, once we suppress the immune reactivity, we can upregulate the expression of the genes that make the proteins that are the chemoprotective system. So even though we're focusing on the liver and the directionality in the liver to enable all of this, we are upregulating detox in every cell in the body.
Woo! Yeah!
And we're doing it in a field of hemp. Elements in here also upregulate mitochondrial activity. These are the things making the energy to be able to do this. This is a profound element of this system. And there's something called autophagy, where you digest improperly made or damaged elements in the cell and you rebuild them. And these elements do there. You're going to see nanoparticle quercetin coming forward as a major changer of people's mitochondrial health. People going to diets like ketogenic diets. These are to reactivate the mitochondria to be able to dominantly focus on burning oil in a clean way. Quercetin, lipoic acid, they drive towards those pathways very, very powerfully. This is a metabolic cleanser at the same time that you think it's just pulling toxins out. It's sharpening your metabolism. You will see cleaner metabolism when you're doing this. All right, so they're going to kick me off stage real shortly, so let me just cover the catch. Cover the catch. Catch, mega binder. We dumped everything. We fluidized the liver. We dumped the toxins all out. We revved up the mitochondria. We're putting energy into that system. Toxins hit the GI tract. We want to catch them. People have talked about binders for years, but they tend to talk about them like they're all the same. All the toxins aren't the same. Toxin for gasoline and a metal are very different. So all the different toxins have different characteristics, and they are attracted to different binders. The binder will have specificity for binding a certain swath of the pallets of toxins. And since there's so many different toxins, you need a lot of different binders. And so we have 4 major types of binders. IMD, what I designed personally for binding metals like mercury, arsenic, cadmium, lead, specific for those metals. Charcoal, most broadly known, binds endotoxin, binds mold toxins, binds volatiles, binds a broad section of toxins. And clay binds another section, some of which overlap, some of which are different. And chitosan, the final one, is derived from shellfish, but it is a hypoallergenic compound derived from there that has special affinity to certain biological toxins, such are made by bacteria and molds. So that suite of 4 binders, then with a balanced amount of acacia and aloe to rebuild the GI lining, that is mega binder. That'll tie it all up in a bow and take it out to the toilet. So, just to mention a couple things before they throw me off stage here. Constipation. Happens to some people, doesn't happen to others. You could put a whole bunch of magnesium in this and some people would be happy and some people would be in the bathroom all the time. If you have constipation, add more magnesium. That's the easiest way. You have to keep everything flowing when you're doing this. It's not go once every 2-3 days. You have to keep things flowing all the time, and you have to keep drinking water all the time. So adding magnesium, all magnesiums work. The ones that don't absorb well, like magnesium oxides, you'll see things like oxy powder or things, it'll be names like that. Magnesium oxides don't absorb, they just pull water into the GI tract and make you go. So that's an individual thing. You figure that out yourself. If you're not going to the bathroom enough, use that. And then when it comes to other things to bring into it, here come my friends. Massage is great for moving lymph. Movement moves lymph. The Chinese have an exercise called the long life exercise. That's the long life exercise. Moves lymph, especially lymph in here, breast lymph. Massage, Maria of Paris is here. She teaches a GI massage. Go learn it from her. She gives it away for free. Almost for free. Clear that out. Anything that moves lymph, is great. Other things, ionic foot baths, biomat, PEMF, and your diet, those are all parts of it. So, thank you all.